On the last episode, broke Army Dr. Watson moved in with a stranger named Sherlock Holmes, a man who could read your whole life from your shoes. A body turned up in an empty house, no wounds, no blood. Just one word in red on the wall, Raish. A second victim dropped days later, same bloody signature. Holmes quietly connected footprints, cab tracks, and a poisoned pill test while Scotland Yard fumbled in the dark. Then sprang his own trap and cuffed the killer red-handed, a cab driver named Jefferson Hope. Now caught, Hope isn't denying a thing. He just sits down and starts talking. And to understand why he did it, we have to leave London completely and go back 20 years to the deserts of Utah. Hope's tale begins in the vast deserts of Utah, where a man named John Ferrier and a young orphan girl, Lucy, are wandering on the edge of death from thirst and starvation. They are the only survivors of a lost emigrant party trying to reach the West. Just when all hope seems lost, a caravan from the Mormon community appears on the horizon, led by Brigham Young himself. They agree to save Ferrier and Lucy on one condition. You will join our community and follow our rules. Ferrier hates the idea of being controlled by anyone, but out here, freedom means nothing without water. So he agrees. Years pass. Ferrier works hard and builds a life, becoming wealthy, respected, and well-liked. Except for one small detail. He refuses to practice polygamy, a central custom in the community at the time. Lucy grows up to become a warm, kind, and striking young woman, the kind people naturally admire. And one day she meets Jefferson Hope, a rugged hunter and silver miner who lives outside the Mormon settlement. They fall in love quickly, the simple, sincere kind of love that should have led to marriage, a quiet home, and maybe a couple of dogs. But of course, this is a detective story, not a rom-com. Two high-ranking and powerful men in the community, Enoch Drebber and Joseph Stangerson, both decide they want to marry Lucy. Not ask politely, they intend to claim her. Lucy refuses both immediately. Brigham Young steps in and delivers a chilling ultimatum. Lucy must marry either Stangerson or Drebber within 30 days. If she refuses, both she and her father will face the consequences. That escalated quickly. Ferrier is horrified. He secretly sends a message to Jefferson Hope, begging him to return and help them escape. He arrives at the last possible moment, the final night before Lucy is forced into marriage. No warning, no time to explain, just action. Hope slips into Ferrier's house in silence, the entire plan already prepared. Escape routes, timing, and 3 horses waiting beyond the settlement. They leave immediately, moving through the shadows, avoiding patrols and slipping past the watchful eyes of the Mormon elders. One mistake would mean death, but somehow they make it through. Then, open desert. Freedom. Or at least something that feels like it. For days they ride without rest, crossing a brutal landscape that burns them by day and freezes them by night. Lucy weakens, Ferrier struggles to keep up, and only Hope still has the strength to push forward. Then the plan begins to fall apart. Food runs out. Believing they've escaped pursuit, Hope hides them in a narrow mountain pass and leaves to hunt, a small risk meant to save all 3 of them. He returns with food, and for the first time in days, he allows himself to believe they made it. But when he arrives, everything is silent. No voices, no movement. Just cold ashes, blood on the ground, and a shallow grave. Carved into the rock beside it, John Ferrier, died August 4th, 1860. Not a burial, a message. Ferrier is dead and Lucy is gone. Hope turns back immediately, heading straight into the settlement they just escaped. And what he finds is worse than anything he imagined. Lucy was taken right after the attack, forced into marriage with Drebber before she could resist, and within weeks she dies. Not from violence, but because everything inside her breaks. Hope stands at her grave, silent, no tears, no rage, just a decision forming in his mind. This is no longer escape. This is a hunt. Hope disappears from Utah, but he never stops moving. For years, he tracks Drebber and Stangerson across America, but they know they're being hunted, so they run, hide, and stay close together, knowing that being alone would mean death, and Hope learns from that. He stops chasing blindly and starts preparing. At one point, he works in a laboratory where he discovers a rare South American poison, invisible, tasteless, almost impossible to trace. He steals it and turns it into identical pills. One harmless, one fatal. Because in his mind, this is not murder. This is judgment. Eventually, the two men flee to Europe, to London, and Hope follows. But now he faces two problems. He's almost out of money, and he's dying. An aortic aneurysm. A silent countdown that could kill him at any moment. So he adapts again. He becomes a cab driver, the perfect disguise. Always moving, always close to people, but invisible to everyone. And he waits because now he understands something important. Patience will win. The opportunity doesn't come from planning. It comes from fate. One rainy night, Drebber, drunk and out of control, runs from Arthur Charpentier after causing trouble and jumps into the first cab he sees to escape. The worst decision of his life. Hope is driving. No struggle, no chase. The prey walks straight into the trap. Hope drives him not to safety, but to an empty house at Lauriston Gardens, a place he already prepared. Inside, he locks the door and reveals who he is, and Drebber collapses instantly, begging, panicking, realizing there's no way out. But Hope doesn't kill him immediately. Instead, he offers a choice. 2 pills, one leads to life, one to death. Let fate decide. Drebber takes one, and within seconds, he's dead. In Hope's eyes, justice has been served, but at that exact moment, his body betrays him. Blood begins to pour from his nose as his illness strikes again. He wipes it, then writes a single word on the wall. Raish. A clue, a misdirection, a final mark. Then he walks out into the night as if nothing happened. One target remains. Stangerson is different. Careful, alert, always locked inside his room because he knows something is coming. But Hope has waited too long to stop now. He tracks him to a hotel, climbs up in the dead of night, and slips through the window. Same offer, same rules. 2 pills, one chance. But this time, the plan breaks. Stangerson refuses to play. He attacks. And in that moment, the illusion of fate disappears. Hope has no choice. He draws his knife and kills him. No game, no judgment, just the end. The hunt is over. And just like that, Hope goes back to his life as a cab driver, as if none of it ever happened. When Holmes captures him, Hope doesn't resist. He calmly tells the entire story, clearly, precisely, without fear and without regret, because in his mind, this was never a crime. It was a promise, and he kept it. After Jefferson Hope finishes his story, Watson is left stunned. Not just by the revenge itself, but by how Holmes managed to unravel something this complex from almost nothing. And like every reader watching this unfold, he finally asks the question, how did you figure it all out? Holmes, of course, doesn't answer dramatically. He simply explains, but piece by piece, as if the entire mystery had been obvious from the start. The footprints at Lauriston Gardens showed a long stride, meaning the killer was tall and physically strong. The word Raich was written high on the wall, not stretched upward, but placed naturally, confirming the same conclusion. There were no wounds on Drebber's body, which ruled out violence and pointed directly to poison. When Holmes examined the mouth, he detected the faint trace of an alkaloid, a clear sign of a specific type of toxin. Then came the blood, not from the victim, but from the killer, which meant the murderer had some kind of medical condition, something that could cause sudden bleeding under stress. That detail would later match perfectly with Hope's aneurysm. At the scene, there were also horse tracks, but not just any tracks. A single horse had been standing there for a long time, pacing in place, something that would only happen if the driver was waiting nearby, not leaving immediately. That meant the cab driver wasn't just a witness. He was the killer. Holmes then connects the final pieces, the missing wedding ring, proving the killer had returned to the scene, and Drebber's own report at the police station, where he asked for protection from a man named Jefferson Hope. At that point, Holmes didn't discover the killer anymore. He simply confirmed what he already knew. Watson listens in complete disbelief, like someone watching a magician explain a trick that suddenly seems impossible to miss. Meanwhile, Gregson and Lestrade stand there in silence, slowly realizing they were never really solving the case. They were just following it. A few days later, the case should have gone to trial. But it never does. Jefferson Hope is found dead in his cell, his aneurysm finally claiming him before any official judgment could. The law never catches up because time does it first. And yet, when the newspapers come out, they tell a completely different story. Headlines praise Inspector Lestrade, credit Gregson, and celebrate Scotland Yard for cracking the case. Holmes reads it over breakfast, his expression tightening more and more with every line. He doesn't explode, but it's obvious. He did all the work, and someone else is getting the credit. Watson can't help but find it slightly amusing, but he also understands something important. If the truth isn't written down, it disappears. So he tells Holmes that he has kept detailed notes of everything, every clue, every deduction, every moment, and that he plans to publish it exactly as it happened. Holmes pretends not to care, brushing it off like it's nothing. But the truth is, this matters more to him than he admits. And that decision changes everything, because this is not just the end of a case. It's the beginning of something much bigger. A brutal crime has been solved. A decades-old tragedy has finally been revealed. And for the first time, the world is about to hear the name Sherlock Holmes. Watson becomes more than a witness. He becomes the storyteller, the one who turns cases into legend. From this point on, their partnership will take them into far stranger mysteries. Stolen treasures, impossible footprints, deadly conspiracies, and eventually, enemies far more dangerous than anything they've faced so far. This is a study in Scarlet, the story that started it all.